Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Joshua Harper, and I'm here with my esteemed co-host Jay One Hero. We are here today on the podcast J Talk to talk to you about our why we create comics, and what inspires us and keeps us going. It's not unlike the first podcast we had. We talked about inspiration and how we avoid falling into a rut. But we're here to talk about today our original moments, the times where we were like, "This is what I want to do. This is what makes me want to do this." Jay, say hello.
Yo, what's going on, everybody? Thanks for coming to another one. We appreciate it. Looking forward to getting into some insightful conversation, and hoping it does some good.
Yeah, awesome.
And
Good.
off topic, but to wondering why we are not doing video, we're trying to test this podcast out by seeing if doing audio will present a better quality of content for you guys versus just trying to force the issue with video. So hopefully this works out better. And yeah.
Yeah, awesome. If you guys like the no cameras, feel free to comment. If you guys liked it better with cameras, feel free to comment that. Feedback is how we get better at this. Before we get into our talking about our why, we would like to start talking about some news. Deadpool came out this week on Friday. I haven't seen it yet personally. I'm going tomorrow with my girlfriend. But Jay, you've seen it, correct?
Heck yeah.
What did you think to it?
If I remove my biased opinion from it, because I love Red. I'm about to say Red Ryan. Ryan Reynolds. The movie as a whole, it was a very easy story and plot to follow, and they allowed the movie to be exactly what it needed to be, which was an action adventure fantasy story, and nothing more, nothing less. Not too much story, not too little action. It was like just the right amount of everything else. But then to add on Ryan Reynolds, who brought the character off the screen to life, along with the other characters, they did a really good job in making that as a whole. Now, this one, with all of the hype behind it compared to Ant-Man, I would appreciate Deadpool more than I did Ant-Man, because I felt like the movie like Ant-Man was supposed to be something like this, but they just oversold it in a way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I haven't seen him in either, so I can't really comment on that. But I'm surprised it's got such a mainstream appeal. I mean, most people, I think, know Deadpool as the wisecracking chimichanga guy, but I think a lot of people in the theater were surprised by how vulgar he actually is. He's in a lot of TV shows, a lot of the Avengers animated stuff, Spider-Man animated, and I mean he's becoming one of the faces for Marvel, like it or not. And they tone him down a whole lot for these for people, so he's more palatable and digestible by people. So I think a lot of people were surprised. From my understanding, I know a couple people that went in and said they were not expecting it to be that violent, that swear heavy, all F-bomb after F-bomb after F-bomb. I was like, it's you should have asked.
Well, yeah, that's really who he is, and people have become nurtured into the superhero genre by the superheroes being catered to the mass appeal versus it being who they truly were. Like for Tony Stark, he's supposed to be a drunk, alcoholic with a problem and stuff like that. Yet we don't see that. They don't even really cover most of that in there. Or Green Arrow, how his real origin story is completely different from the TV series, and then they just said, "Hey, we're going to give you Batman's leftover villains that we didn't want to use." So people were really used to just being ushered in a certain way, and then Deadpool is like, "Hey, we're coming straight at you to smack you in the mouth with the real character, and hopefully you like it." We're going because Hollywood doesn't like risk. If it ain't broke, they don't fix it. They'll give us Terminator 12 before they give us a new series like that.
Yeah, that's very accurate. One thing I thought was interesting about it, and this will segue to the second point. The director of Guardians of the Galaxy, I forget his name. James Gunn. Yeah, James Gunn. He made this blog post on it, and I really agreed with it, and I felt it resonate with me. He said a lot of studios are going to get the wrong idea from this. They're seeing
Yep.
Deadpool. He's a one-trick pony. No offense to Deadpool fans or Deadpool. I like Deadpool, but a lot of his stuff is based around just being over the top, outrageous, and it's not like you can build this constant story around it. The Deadpool comics are significantly more clever than the movie, from what I've heard. I haven't seen the
That's why I
movie.
said the plot was kind of like just it was a basic plot, but if it wasn't for Deadpool being Ryan Reynolds, the story might have suffered.
Yeah. No, but yeah. So that's the thing is I'm not saying Deadpool's a one-trick pony, but from what I understand, the movie had its moments that kind of made it seem like that's how the movie was going to go. It's interesting to note they got re-upped for. They're considering X-Force. I think there's a sequel coming, and I think it's going to be an X-Force themed movie, but that's for another time. But James Gunn, he made this really good point and said Hollywood is going to miss the point completely. This isn't about we don't want to be making raunchy superhero movies for the sake of making raunchy superhero movies. We want to be making movies that are different, that aren't like other movies. And he predicts you'll see a swath of new movies similar to Deadpool with the same
even
kind of.
Wolverine 3 is supposed to be R-rated, or they're pushing for it.
Yeah, not that I think that's a bad thing, but I don't want every movie to be like Deadpool. And he made the point. He was the same thing with Guardians of the Galaxy. Is after Guardians of the Galaxy came out, a lot of movies were pitched with the premise of it's like Guardians of the Galaxy, and I don't want that. I want Guardians to be its own thing. I love the movie Guardians of the Galaxy, but it needs to stand on its own merits, and other stories need to stand on their own. Deadpool is not like Guardians. Guardians is not like Deadpool, but they're both very different than what Marvel generally produces. So I think that was an interesting point. Speaking of Guardians of the Galaxy, Kurt Russell today has announced that he is joining the crew for Guardians of the Galaxy 2. How do you feel about that, Jay?
I like Kurt Russell. I think when I heard that he was signed there, I instantly thought of the Kurt Russell from Big Trouble in Little Chinatown.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that I enjoyed him in that role there. So I'm really looking forward to enjoying him in this role as well. I think him and Chris Pratt can do really, really well together.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any idea? I don't know if you're familiar with Guardians of the Galaxy at all, but do you know, or do you think you know what role he's gonna fill?
Chris Pratt's father.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking as well. I really like Kurt Russell. One of my favorite actors. I love him in The Thing is one of my favorite movies. John Carpenter's The Thing, and so that instilled in me a strong love of Kurt Russell. And I made a joke to someone as I'm hoping this is the sequel to The Thing where he takes the fight to the aliens.
Right.
No, but I think he'll be a good fit. Again, Big Trouble in Little China. Good film. Good Kurt Russell. He's very, he can play a couple of characters, so I'm interested to see how they pull it off. Then finally, Star Wars has started filming this week. Star Wars Episode 8, I believe. It's started filming, and a lot of people are really excited for it, myself included. How do you feel about that?
About the Star Wars? Yeah, when I seen that actual little featurette that they posted, I was really excited myself too. I'm like, oh wow, they already started filming. They're not playing around. And they started off with the last scene that you saw, which was like anticipated and highly hyped up. So I'm like, wow, like we really have a chance of seeing this. And then when I noticed it was only like 30 to 40 seconds, I was like, oh, okay. Well, meanwhile, I'm gonna go over to this Batman vs Superman trailer, which was the final one, which is awesome, by the way. I love that they finally showcased Batman or Batfleck, and he's starting to show his colors. If you haven't seen that trailer, please go watch it. For all of you, I really think you would enjoy it to know what is looking forward to in the movie. Hopefully, they're not giving us all of the movie and all these trailers, but we'll see. Sorry, I went off topic.
No, it's good. I'm excited for Star Wars. I'm really excited for the new Batman versus Superman. I think I'll ask you, since we're talking about movies, what movie are you most excited for this year? Is it Batman versus Superman? Yeah.
Yes, I would say yes, but not really. But I'll leave it as Batman. No, actually, no, Winter Soldier, because I want to see Spider-Man.
Oh, Civil War.
Civil War. Yes, sorry.
No, no
Civil
worries.
War. Civil War. Suicide Squad. Yeah.
Yeah, I gotta say, I think I'm most excited for Suicide Squad. I've been saying it for a long time. I think it's gonna be a really good film. I don't think it's gonna be true to the Suicide Squad story, like Deadpool was true to Deadpool, but I think it'll be a good film nonetheless. Uh, One final piece of news before we get into our topic is if you are a fan of the DC animated universe like myself, Kari Payton has announced, I think it's Kari, it might be Carrie, can't remember. But he has said that Netflix is monitoring how the newest season of Young Justice does on Netflix. For those of you who aren't aware, Young Justice was a cartoon produced by Cartoon Network and Warner Brothers, and it was canceled a couple years ago, I believe, maybe a year ago. But it's been working its way on Netflix, and they recently released the second season. And he said, "Yo, you guys want this thing to happen, season 3? Let's get on this. Start watching. Show Netflix that this is what people want." So there's a possibility it could be saved for those of you who are big fans of the DC animated universe. So getting into our topic for today, we're talking about our why we make comics, what inspired us to do this. And Jay, you recently released a blog on this, didn't you?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. How do you start us off? Why don't you tell us what your why is?
The thing that really came to importance about discovering your why is because that is the thing that will drive you, even in your darkest moments, even in the moments when you feel like you aren't doing well, you aren't where you want to be. It's like that why is going to drive you because it's going to drive you to show the person that you are and you are going to become versus showing who you want to be and that you might not ever get there. Because if you wake up every day and know what that why is, it will drive you out of your comfort zone to do things above and beyond you would normally do. Like for me, everybody says, dude, you're freaking fearless to be able to put your comic out for the world to judge, for people to judge. Like every day you're putting yourself out there to be judged. Like, I don't think I could do that. And I'm like, well, that's a part of my why. I don't look at it as in that, hey, judge my comic and judge my story. My why is that I want to creatively create to inspire others to follow their dreams and to hopefully make a change in the world, to show somebody else that can follow their dream and do their thing. That's what I want to do. So with all of my stories, they always have a theme and a message. And it's because of my why. I'm like, I may not be the perfect person to tell anybody what to do or how to do it, but I feel like that's my purpose, is to at least attempt to contribute to changing someone's life or changing the world in that way. And that's my mission. So that's why I tell comics. That's why I want to tell stories, but I love comics because I'm a visual person. I couldn't write just words and let it be words. I'd rather talk for 16 hours straight about it, or at least just show a video than actually just write the words, because I feel like you can't get the best of me from just my words without you hearing me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you would define your why. I think your why is, if I recall correctly, let's see if I remember it. You say it all the time. I look to be a pillar to those around me to inspire them.
Almost. Creatively, I look to inspire the world through my eyes and become a pillar of light for all dreamers.
Yeah, and so that's like
always remember that greatness lives within.
Mm-hmm. So that's your why then. That's my
manifesto. That's my manifesto. Absolutely.
Yeah. Did you have a moment at any point where you said, "This is what was your this is what I want to do" moment?
When I realized that when I tried to go back to school and I tried to fully focus on work on as that being my career, and I realized that I began to become unhappy because I felt like I was taking away from something, and what I was taking away from was being being able to create. Like I realized that I could honestly be okay working a job where I was making just enough money to support myself, but to support my craft till I got to the point where I wouldn't need this other job and income to support this craft, to do this. If I could stay at home and create 24/7, that would be the dream life for me, because I'm steadily contributing to the world toward my mission versus someone else's mission for their
Yeah,
personal gain.
yeah.
That's when I realized it.
I really like. Creative people don't make that much money, and you always are told that. And I think as comic creators, you feel it even more. It's really hard to you don't get rich making comics, plain and simple. You never will. I hate to break it to you. If you're in this to make money, you will never make money. You might make enough money to survive. You might make enough money to live decently, but you will never own a mansion. You won't own you won't own 10,000 cars. You will not be on the same level as celebrities or writers of movies and things like that. By virtue of just comics it's a small medium. It's not nearly as big as movies. It's not nearly as big as anything. It's relatively small in and of itself. And so, I think it's really important a lesson to wake up and be able to say, I want to make comics regardless of the money I make. That's coming to that realization is a very good why moment. Why am I going to do this? Because that'll decide whether or not you want to do this. Because do you want to make money or not? Do you want to risk it all to make a small amount of money and have
right? Especially with my own family and my family, people that I've met and people that I know, they look at me like I'm crazy. They're like, why aren't you in school using your brain for this? Why aren't you in school doing this? Why aren't you focusing on your career? And I'm like, this is my career. This is my life. I live, eat, sleep, bleed, and breathe creativity to change the world. That's what I want to do. That is who I am. That is in my heart and soul. And there's nothing that anybody can change that. No amount of money can change that. No other opportunity. Hey, you can be the CEO of GameStop. I don't care. If it's going to allow me to create, somebody else can run my job at GameStop as CEO. Let me create, man. That's what I want to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And so there wasn't a, go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say, I will say the hardest part for me is that starting out independently, I have to rely solely on myself to make the money, to pay the artist, to get myself in the position where I don't have to work the jobs that I don't want to do that. But that's what another thing I realized was a hard point for me, is that I'm like, my journey is going to be a hard one. It's not going to be easy. And it's going to be harder, just like a lot of the artists I watch online that have taken 7-8 years of creating stuff before it started to catch on. To know that that's the journey you're going to walk down, that was a hard pill to swallow, saying, hey, you're going to be a nobody for a long time, but eventually the world will be able to look back on your long body of work and say, oh, wow, this guy really is good. Why did we take so long to find him? Or, hey, he's not bad. But to realize that that's how it's going to go, and it's went that way for everyone going down this same path, was an eye-opener to say, hey, now do you really want to go down this path? Or do you want to do something else? And I'm like, you know what? No, I've already made the jump. I'll figure out how to build a plane on the way down and fly out of it.
Yeah, no. So do you have a specific moment in mind where you sat down and you said, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to make comics. Because for me, I'll talk about my why in a little bit. But for me, I remember I was 16. I think it was 16. I think it was 2011. I think I remember the specific year. I was young, though. And I was reading a comic. I was really annoyed. My wisdom teeth were coming in early. And I was the first of my friends and my family and the youngest to get my wisdom teeth out, and I hated it. I hate surgery. I hate going under. I hate that I am in pain for so long. I don't take narcotics. I don't care if you do. I don't take narcotics. I just take the Advils, but it's painful. And I was really annoyed with it, and I was sitting in my house and I couldn't go out. I had this friend, Josiah, and we made a bunch of stuff together, a bunch of videos, a bunch of movies. We were those kids that had the YouTube videos. And we always had disagreements and whatnot. But for me, it was always about creating something. And we talked about making movies occasionally, but nothing really ever came of it. And I was reading a comic at the time. And that comic was Gare, Gare the Enchained Spiritual Beasts by Hajime Sagawa, who I talked about last week, who writes and creates Tokyo ESP. And I started reading it the day I got my wisdom teeth out. I was reading it in the lobby, getting my wisdom when I was waiting to go in for surgery, and I fell in love with it as a story. They had me in a wheelchair, wheeling me out of the office, and I was on my phone trying to read it while I was still slightly sedated. I was trying to read it. My dad loaded me up into a car, and on the way home, I kept trying to read it, and I could not put it down. When I got home, and I didn't watch anything. I just read this from beginning to end. And it was perfect because I had my wisdom teeth out. I wasn't doing anything for the next few days, so I just sat down, read it over the course of 2 or 3 sittings. It's about 50 chapters, so it's not super long, but for me, that was a story, and that was like the moment in the time where I was like, I'm not gonna make movies, I'm not gonna make videos with Josiah. Like, that's not gonna be what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna make a comic. This comic is making me want to make a comic, and so that's why I will always say that Hajime Sagawa and Gare are the people that got the things that got me into comics. They make me want to create. That was my moment, though. I remember sitting in my bed thinking, man, I am going to do this one day. I am going to do this. I'm going to meet this person. I'm going to tell them, hey, you inspired me to make comics. That's my why moment. Whenever I'm down, whenever I'm upset, I always think back to that moment where I was in my bed as a 16-year-old kid. I was like, man, I want to create comics. So did you have a moment like that?
Yeah. It really came into play. It really came into play for me. When I started Infinite when I was working full time, and then I lost my job full time, and was working part time, and I wasn't making nearly enough money. But when I realized that I got the most amount of joy that I could ever get from basically I found my meaning of existence. Like some people are motivational speakers. I'm a motivational speaker too, but I'm doing it through my creativity for others. When I realized that that was my purpose and that I really didn't care that I was making less money to live on, but I was still trying to put my story out, even though I was releasing like a page a month, almost 2 pages a month, I still enjoyed it. And there was nothing that could stop me from getting to work, to get the money, to take care of what I had to take care of, but to put this story out. Regardless if I got any views, regardless if I got any likes, comments, shares, whatever, it never mattered to me. I enjoyed, with a smile on my face, working with people creatively to support them in their life to do creatively. So it's like that moment of walking to work with no car in the dead cold of winter, when I had little money to myself, I'm like, I'm doing this for free. Am I really going to do this? And in my heart and soul, it said to me, this is what you want to do. This is your path. You're going to walk it or you're not. So I did. And I never looked back after that moment. I'll never forget it because it was one of the coldest days ever. And I was walking to work like, is this really worth it? Are you kidding me right now? I just lost my job and I'm working here part-time at GameStop, not making nearly enough money. And I'm still putting this story out for people that can't even, give me a like or a comment. And then it was like something in my mind was like, and my soul was like, wake up. You're doing this because you enjoy it and you love to do it. This is what you're going to be doing for a long time. And I didn't fight back. I said, you know what? You're right. Sorry, self. I got ahead of myself. I got disrupted. I'm back on track. Let's go.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough. I think that's important. You remember your why you create. You don't want to get caught up in your own little world. I think as writers, and to a degree, all creators, you have to have a little bit of ego about you. You gotta have a little bit of an ego to say, man, my stories are worth reading. You should read them. Not that that's a bad thing, but sometimes it can lead to you getting caught up in your own world, and part of it is you get caught up in, why aren't they liking my stuff? Why aren't they commenting? Why aren't they subscribing? And
Yeah.
I struggle with is you do it for free. You don't do it for free. You do it for free for people to then criticize you about this. That's one of the tough things is not just that you're putting heart and soul into effort and you want to make this thing that's free. You don't care if someone enjoys it or not. You hope at least one person enjoys it. One person says, "Hey, that's cool." One person gives you a pat on the back. The more the merrier. But the hard part is when someone you don't know and someone who has no business, like it's just like, man, this story sucks. And it's not like a constructive criticism thing. It's never like, you should try this to fix her. I didn't like this aspect of it. It's just like, you're putting yourself out there and you're wearing your heart on your sleeve with your stories and telling people, beat it up. I want to make this better. But it's still tough sometimes, Not to say you or I have these big followings where we have so many people commenting on us and haters make us famous, but it just takes one person. Ask anyone. It takes that one person to say, "Man, your work sucks," and it'll ruin your day. I know I'm guilty. I've done that to people before. I feel bad doing it now as a creator. Why would I do that to someone? They're putting themselves out there as a creator and more or less for free. So why am I going to comment on that person's work and say like, "Hey man, I hated this"? If they're asking for criticism, that's one thing. But how do you feel about that, Jay?
About what in general?
Like people, like you're putting yourself out there, and the hardest. So to summarize what I just said, for me the hardest part is I'm not just making a comic for people to read for free. I'm putting myself out there with it for them to criticize. People I don't know, people I do know, doesn't matter. Everyone offers their criticism of it, and it's for free. And I'm not talking about constructive criticism. I'm just talking about criticism like, "Oh, I hated this. It was a horrible story."
Oh yeah. Well, at the beginning of my creative journey, I found myself amongst a lot of people that were more criticism heavy than they were constructive criticism or positive. And I think that's the wrong thing that a lot of people do when you are creative, is that you can't be around people that are creators too, because we all find things to nitpick at that could be better, and it can be taken in the wrong context a lot. So being able to realize that later than I wanted to, it hindered my creativity. So I can only imagine what it does for people that really don't know that. But to shine light on somebody negatively for not making the story the way that you see it would be done is not really right, because what makes my way or my vision right and yours wrong? What makes my vision better and what makes yours worse? Those things are not up for us to decide, because we're all different people. We all cherish different things and we find other things important. So yes, I will put my story out there. Yes, you will put your story out there. And yes, the person listening may put something out there in the world. It's not meant for every single human being on this planet to like. It's not. People are going to like it regardless. People are going to hate it regardless. At the end of the day, as long as you, one, know your why, and two, love what you're doing, you should never, ever be shaken or faltered from your path. Mm-hmm. And I mean, we're all guilty. We want everybody. We want to be able to drop something and everybody be like, "Oh my God, you're the best. You are the J.K. Rowling, Michael Bay, Christopher Nolan, whomever, Alan Moore, Scott Snyder, Zack Snyder, King Leonidas of this storytelling, or of this music making, or of being a nurse, or of being a doctor." Everybody wants to be the best. But you got to be willing to take what comes with that. And there's a lot more hate than there is more praise.
Yeah. No, I should say that again, just to clarify, it's nothing to do with constructive criticism. It's all about when people take digs at you. But No, so that's what you gotta remember in those situations where you're down or people are beating you up and stuff like that. It's important to, as Jay said, remember your why. Remember why you're doing this. For me, it's I want to meet this creator Hajime Sagal, and I want to shake his hand and be like, "Yo, you got me into comics. I would not be who I am today if it weren't for you." And that's why I keep going. Jay, for you, it's you want to teach. You want to show people, yo, you can do this. Don't let anyone tell you no. You know, those are our whys. Do you have anything else you'd like
Wait,
to
I
add on
didn't
the
hear what
topic?
you said. The first part of yours.
Oh, I want to meet the creator, Hajime Sagawa, who makes Tokyo ESP and Gare, and tell. I just want to shake his hand. It's not anything noble about inspiring people. I'd love to inspire people. I want to get people to do their things, but the why, what drives me in my core is I want to meet this guy. I want to tell him, listen, you made me who I am today. I wouldn't be anywhere near what I am if it wasn't for you.
That's
I
what's
would.
up. Yeah, that's what's up. And to piggyback off that, if I could, it would be to honestly, like, if there was a chance where a lot of the popular anime creators were in one spot, and I could actually walk in there with a translator and be able to tell them how grateful I am for them doing what they've done.
Mm-hmm.
It would be huge. I mean, just honestly, just today, no lie, I was at Chipotle getting something to eat, and a girl was dancing around at the register waiting on me, and I come up there, and she notices I have a Naruto lanyard, and she's like, "Oh my god, you watch Naruto?" I'm like, "Yeah." She's like, "I just started watching that next week. It is amazing." I'm like, "Oh, that's what's up." Yeah. She was like, "So you like anime?" And I'm like, "Well, yeah, I love anime. I mean, I'm writing my own manga right now." She's like, "Oh, dude," and put both her hands up like, "High five, man. That's awesome. Where can I find it?" And I wrote it on the back of my business card and gave it to her. That was awesome to know that, that because my love of Naruto or just anime in general connected me with another person that allowed me to connect to them through what my why and my creation is.
Yeah. No, I think it's important to remember your why is this. It's this huge, like, why do you make comics? And for some people, it's about inspiring people. For some, it's about meeting people. For some, it's about doing what you love. And you should never let anyone tell you your why is incorrect or false or invalid. It is your why. If people shut down why you do comics, why you do anything, why would you do anything in the end? It's like you should never let anyone tell you your why is wrong, because without your why, you will falter, you will fail, and you will fall, and it's a sad situation. It happens to so many people. So.
Think about it, Josh. Think about how much adversity you went through as just being a writer before you even decided to make a story. Imagine if you didn't have that why. Imagine if Guy Ray Zero didn't exist. Imagine if you never had that impulse, energy, driving mechanism in your soul that had you want to fire on all cylinders to meet this person.
Yeah, no, it has kept me going, and we've had some ups. We've, Jay, I've been with you since the beginning, Jay, since of my comic career. We've had our ups, we've had our downs. You've seen, like, it's not easy, especially, it's hard for indie people. It's hard for people out there. It's not easy, and without your why, you are lost. You are a ship at sea without a captain and without sails.
And the most annoying thing that I could honestly say about the indie market in general is that we have so many people that would rather be alone and compete than to work together or just establish some kind of community. You don't have to be closely knit, but we're all on the same path. Could you imagine if there was 100,000 independent creators together in the community knocking on the door of media saying, we want in, we want in? They couldn't deny it.
Mm-hmm.
They couldn't deny it. It's the same way with childbirth. Eventually, somebody gets through and a baby's born. So I don't see why we couldn't work the same way, because if we penetrate the system and somebody gets in, we all get in to get the same thing, to be able to flood the TV series network with different ideas, fresh ideas. It's out there. The possibilities there. And I think like that's one thing that's untapped. I mean, there are people out there that are trying to do it, that are cornering certain markets, trying to pick up independent artists and independent stories. But are they utilizing that to the best? No.
Yeah, no, I agree completely. So I think that'll about wrap us up for the night. There's one thing I wanted to challenge you, Jay, personally, and anyone that's listening. I'm going to challenge each and every one of you. I want you in March to read a comic that you love or that you haven't read before. What I do, I challenge you to do this is because I got my wisdom teeth out in March when I got my wisdom when I was 16, and All American Rejects had just released Kids in the Street. It's one of my favorite albums because of this moment. And I sat down and I was I put on that album and I marathoned through Gare. I marathoned. It made me want to go and read so many more stories. And so every year now in March, to remember my why, I will always go back and read Gare and watch Gare's Hero. I own it on DVD. I buy the Gare Japanese manga so I can feel better about reading it online in English. But I every year read Gare from start to finish, watch Gare's Hero after and beforehand. And I challenge you, Jay, to find a story you love, or a story that you haven't even started, or a story that you started and you haven't finished. I want you to find that story that gives you and reminds me of your why, and I want you to read it. And the same goes for anyone watching or listening, is I want you to find a story and read it. It doesn't matter what it is, but I want it to inspire you and make you want to create more. You should never let anyone tell you no. How do you feel about that, Jay?
I like it. I like to be able to be interactive alongside of side of you, but also trying to engage some of the readers or some of the viewers. If you do that, yeah, please comment, send us a message, find a way to reach out to us and let us know that you have done it, or that you're at least going to attempt to or start it. So that way, when we come back with the next one and we kind of say, well, hey, did we start? Did you start? What have you picked up and read? We could all share those different aspects together. That'd be really cool. I appreciate that gesture.
Yeah, awesome. Glad I can help. It's it's a bit of a weird thing to do, to read something every year, but that's why I encourage people to sometimes read something differently. But every time I challenge someone, and now I'm challenging you, but every time I challenge people to do this, to read something, they're always like, you know what, that was good. After that, I felt better about creating. I felt better about reading. It made me want to create more. So I will be reading Gare. Jay, next week you should, I'll challenge you this week at least to think of a series to read. And you guys, the listeners, comment below, tweet us, message us. I don't really care. I just want to know what you're reading. I want to know what you are doing for the month of March to read a story or create a story, for that matter. Is there anything else you'd like to add, Jay, before we sign off here?
No, I'm good. I'm good. Yeah, no, we covered a nice little bit of more recent news and updates, and then we covered a very important thing that, like I said, was very important to talk about for me, to miss any things that I might have missed in my original speaking of your why. But also it really helped today because I went to a motivational speaking seminar for work, and the motivational speaker there was kind of moved by my response when he said, like, well, what did you take away from this? And I said, well, this is something I've taken away from it that I can pass on to somebody else. And it's that once you realize how great you are with the greatness that lives within you, you can unshackle yourself from any situation at any given moment to rise to the occasion. So I'll leave it with that. And that's the last thing I have to say.
Awesome. Perfect. My name is Joshua Harper, joined by my esteemed co-host, One Hero. And you can find us online. This is Jay's story, Infinite the Journey. This piece of art specifically is done by Ruben Mocho. He is the artist on my comic, Dizzy, and that releases every Friday. Infinite releases every Sunday. And Infinite is finished with Chapter 5 this week, if I'm not mistaken.
Right. It will actually finish this week with going into Chapter 6. Yeah, and then after that, we'll have one more chapter to complete. This image on the screen right now is done by Prajak Jampech, who is the inker and toner of Infinite the Journey. And then this last image is one that is done by Sebastian Riera, who is the penciler and storyboard artist of Infinite the Journey.
Awesome. Well, I hope we helped you. I know this conversation, as we've stated before, this conversation time for myself and Jay is very beneficial for us, and we both enjoy it. But it means even more if we helped you. So comment below if you feel like we influenced you or challenged you in a way that you've not been challenged before, or enjoy being challenged in that way. My name is Joshua Harper, joined by One Hero, and I'll see you next week.
Peace.